Alright everyone, today's video is how to herd cats, and it's going to be about how to get your players to follow the plot without railroading them. So by this point, I'm sure we're all familiar with what railroading is, but a brief description for those who don't know. Railroading is when you take player agency to force them to go somewhere. And this is really bad because players like their agency, and if you take it away, they have that instant feel bad effect, and really you're not even playing a game with them anymore, they're just listening to you tell a story if you remove their agency. Now there are some situations where it's reasonable, like if they're under a dominate person, or if they've been, if their brain has been eaten by a intellect devourer, those kind of situations, alright, you can take it away. But in other situations, like if it's a cutscene fight, players don't like it. If it's a fight that they can't possibly win, and like by that I don't mean a fight that they're going to lose because the enemies are stronger than them. I mean like a fight where they have no chance of winning. Like you're just going to say the monsters succeed no matter what. Like players don't like that. You're removing their agency. So keep their agency intact. That's one really important thing, and that's the biggest problem that teams run into, is they don't understand the importance of player agency and keeping player agency intact. So when you actually get to the point where you know what railroading is and you've resolved not to do it, there's four steps you should take to get the players to go where you want. And you don't have to do all four of these things. Each of them alone are good, but all of them together are great. So the first two are backstory and character motivations. So a backstory motivation could be, I have a character whose name is Dahi. Him and Argo had been at war, and a new king had taken power. He'd become a tyrant, and they deserted. So they hadn't seen their family in some time, and they wanted to go find them. So eventually, they got to the point where the players were in the forest, and they had to make the decision of where to go next. And Dahi and Argo wanted to go to Ihint, and Blueberry wanted to stay in the forest. So I've got two characters trying to go to Ihint, which is where I need them to go, is Ihint, because I let it slip that it was under siege, because they caught some Kingsmen, they interrogated them, and they found out that Ihint had been captured. So now I had two players that really wanted to go help Ihint, and one of them wanted to stay in the forest. And Blueberry, as a player, understood the importance of going to Ihint, but as a character, he didn't have a motivation to go there. So he was doing the right thing and staying in character by not wanting to go to Ihint. So I had to use the second tool, right? We've covered backstory motivation. I had to use the second tool of character motivation. So his character was 100% about protecting the forest, even above rescuing his own captured father, right? So I had to find another way to get him there. So the Dryad, who was the leader of the forest and who Blueberry was following, simply asked Blueberry to go and help out in Ihint, because the Dryad understood that if Ihint fell to the Illyrian hordes, then the forest would be likely to be destroyed. And Blueberry had not been able to comprehend that up to that point. So when the Dryad asked him and told him and reminded him of the threat, he finally had a character motivation to go to Ihint, and he was gung-ho about it, and he was great from there on, right? And he'd been good the whole time. He'd been in character, he'd been doing the right thing. So that's two ways to motivate your players, right? A backstory reason, they wanted to go see their family, and an in-character reason, he had to go help defend Ihint so that it was not conquered by the Illyrians and he could protect his forest. So there's two reasons, two ways to get your players where you want them to be. Now the other two reasons are carrots and sticks. I'm sure we're all familiar with what they are, but just in case anyone's not, a carrot is something good, a good motivator, and a stick is something bad. So it's a repulsor, kind of like attractors and repulsors. They want to go to the carrots and they want to stay away from the sticks. So a good example of a stick could be, there's a region where if they go into it, they will be, asked to present identification, and they're, deserters and a monster of legend. So, they can't really do that. Blueberry in this world, and Furbolgs in general, had been painted by the people as giant cannibals who ate people, right? Very aggressive, hostile creatures. So he was, if he'd been seen, he would have probably been attacked. And the other two were war heroes who deserted. So they were wanted by the law. They were actually being actively looked for. So they had to go into the sewers, right? They had to stay outside of the city by entering the regular way, and they had to go through the sewers, which is where I had an approach for them, was getting through the sewers. So I used sticks to keep them out of just trying to storm a guard gate or anything like that. And I'd shown them the competency of the guards so far, so that's another reason they didn't want to just storm the gate. And I had mentioned that there were 10, and whenever I say I had mentioned, I mean that they had found out through in-game reasons that there were 10,000 soldiers of the king's in the city. And so they knew that it would be a dangerous area for them to get caught in, and so they had plenty of reasons to go through the sewers, and there weren't really any carrots. There was a carrot, I guess, at the end of the line where they got to their goal, but it was really just sticks keeping them out of a certain area, and they had I think 3 or 5 different options that they could have gone through. They chose the sewers, so that's fine. I was ready for all of them, and all I had to do was what I did with my sticks was I kept them out of the city. Now, if I'd only given them the sewer, that might have felt like railroading. That's not. But let's say I had 5 options laid out and I only let them pick the sewer, that is railroading. So I let them choose which one they wanted. I was prepared for all of them. They just chose the sewer, and I just had sticks where they couldn't let them go, right? So here's an example of a carrot motivation, because we've covered sticks. A carrot motivation is the ranger wanted a better bow, and so there was rumored to be a superior bow in the sewers. It was rumored that there was a soldier, because the army, before they had left Ihand, had gone on regular forays into the sewers to drive back the gorgons and the slimes and the rats. So it was rumored that there was a great bow lost down there, and so that was why they finally picked the sewers, was because they heard about this magical or superior weapon down there. So I gave them a carrot motivation and some stick motivations, and they selected their path. So I got them where I needed them to go. They had their full agency, and they were not railroaded. Alright, so here's what I want you guys to do. I want you to go down to my Discord, and I want you to comment below and tell me and tell everyone, have a good conversation about what the best methods you've used to herd your players around are, and then share this and subscribe so that everyone can see this video and get these good tips. Now here's a pro tip before I go. Don't do cutscenes, don't do fights they can't win, and don't railroad them. Don't take their agency in any way, because players hate that, right? A lot of DMs do cutscenes. Players don't like that. A lot of DMs do impossible fights, and players don't like that. So just don't do those things, and your players will like it more. Because DMs, while PCs are poorly behaved, we also make mistakes. So you gotta be mindful of these things in your game, and just put a little extra work to throw up these carrots and sticks, and it will greatly enrich your game, and your players will love it. Because what feels great as a DM is your players saying, "Hey, that was a fun session. It was awesome. I can't wait for the next one," right? And they're gonna say that more often if you use these tips and tricks to keep their agency and enrich your game. So goodbye, good luck, and have fun in your games.